Sandra Cisneros' The House on Mango Street, first published in 1984, is a celebrated coming-of-age novel about identity, belonging, and the search for independence. The book follows Esperanza Cordero, a young Latina girl growing up in a working-class Chicago neighborhood, as she observes her family, neighbors, and community while dreaming of a life beyond Mango Street. Cisneros' literary style is distinctive and poetic, presenting the story through a series of short, interconnected vignettes rather than a conventional continuous narrative. Her simple yet lyrical language blends memory, observation, symbolism, and imagery to capture Esperanza's developing voice. The novel explores themes of identity, home, poverty, gender, cultural heritage, family, community, freedom, and the transition from childhood to adulthood. The House on Mango Street remains important for its powerful portrayal of a young Latina experience in America and its universal exploration of what it means to find one's own voice while remaining connected to the people and places that shaped it. The story starts with Esperanza Cordero explaining how her family ends up in the small house on Mango Street. Her parents, her brothers Carlos and Kiki, her sister Nenny, and Esperanza herself move there after problems with their old apartment become impossible to ignore. For years, the family has dreamed of a real home with space, privacy, and comfort. Mango Street is better than renting from careless landlords, but it is still not the beautiful house Esperanza has imagined. From the beginning, she feels the difference between having a house and feeling proud to call it home. Esperanza introduces her family and her world through small, sharp observations. She notices everyone's hair, especially her mother's, which feels comforting and safe. She explains how boys and girls separate themselves in the neighborhood, and how her brothers speak to her at home but ignore her outside. Nenny is her sister and responsibility, but Esperanza longs for a true friend of her own. She also reflects on her name, which means hope, but feels heavy to her. She is named after a great-grandmother who was forced into marriage and spent her life looking out a window. Esperanza does not want that same trapped life. She wants a name, a future, and a self that belong completely to her. As Esperanza begins exploring Mango Street, she makes and loses friendships. Kathy, her first friend there, looks down on the neighborhood and is preparing to move away because families like Esperanza's are arriving. Esperanza soon chooses Lucy and Rachel instead, two Chicana sisters who feel closer to her own world. Together, the girls buy a bicycle, ride around the block, laugh, argue, and create their own little freedom in the streets. With them, Mango Street becomes more than a place Esperanza is ashamed of. It becomes a place she can begin to understand. The neighborhood is full of people whose lives reveal what it means to be poor, watched, limited, or misunderstood. Esperanza sees families crowded into small spaces, children running wild because their mother has been abandoned, and adults who dream of somewhere else. Alicia studies late at night because education is her way out, even though her father wants her to stay in the kitchen. Marin waits under streetlights, hoping a man will rescue her into a better life. Mamacita refuses to learn English and mourns the country she left behind. Rafaela is locked indoors by a jealous husband. Minerva, barely older than Esperanza, writes poems but remains trapped in a violent marriage. These women become warnings, showing Esperanza how easily a girl's life can shrink if she gives away her power. At the same time, Esperanza is growing up, and the world begins looking at her differently. A pair of high-heeled shoes makes her and her friends feel suddenly older, but the attention they receive from men quickly becomes frightening. At a family party, Esperanza is embarrassed by her old shoes until her Uncle Nacho dances with her and helps her feel beautiful. She and her friends talk about hips, bodies, boys, and womanhood with a mix of curiosity and confusion. These moments show Esperanza standing at the edge between childhood games and adult danger, not yet sure how to protect herself. Some experiences make that danger painfully real. At her first job in a photo shop, Esperanza feels awkward and alone until an older man pretends to be kind, then forces a kiss on her. Later, at the monkey garden, she tries to save Sally from boys who turn a game into something ugly. but Sally laughs at her, and Esperanza feels childhood slip away. The deepest wound comes at a carnival, when Sally disappears with a boy and Esperanza is assaulted by a group of boys while waiting for her. Afterward, she feels betrayed by the romantic lies she has heard about love and by the women who never warned her about what desire and violence can look like. Sally's story becomes one of the clearest examples of escape turning into another kind of prison. Her father beats her because he fears her beauty and sexuality will shame the family. Sally eventually marries a much older salesman before she's even 14, believing marriage will free her from home. Instead, her husband controls her too. He keeps her inside, stops her from seeing friends, and leaves her surrounded by pretty objects but without real freedom. For Esperanza, Sally's life proves that leaving is not enough if the place you go still belongs to someone else. Esperanza also learns from grief and memory. When her grandfather dies, she sees her father cry and suddenly understands that adults can break too. She remembers Aunt Lupe, once strong and graceful, but later bedridden, who listened to Esperanza's writing and told her to keep writing because it would keep her free. Esperanza feels guilty because she and her friends mocked Lupe shortly before she died. Yet Lupe's advice stays with her and becomes one of the quiet forces pushing Esperanza towards storytelling. Writing becomes Esperanza's path to survival. She listens to the neighborhood, sees what others ignore, and begins shaping pain into language. Ruthie, a talented but fragile woman who never fully enters adult life, is moved when Esperanza recites poetry. Esperanza's mother, who can sing, draw, speak 2 languages, and repair things, tells her not to waste her abilities the way she did. These women help Esperanza understand that talent alone is not enough. She will need courage, independence, and a way to move through the world without being silenced. Esperanza's desire for a house grows into something larger than a wish for nicer walls. She wants a house of her own, not one controlled by a father, husband, landlord, or anyone else. She imagines a safe place with flowers, a porch, quiet, and space to create. But she also begins to understand that leaving Mango Street does not mean she can pretend it never shaped her. 3 old sisters at a wake tell her she is special and will go far, but they also warn her to come back for the people who cannot leave. Alicia tells Esperanza that Mango Street is already part of her, even if she rejects it. By the end, Esperanza understands herself as a storyteller. She will leave Mango Street one day with her books and writing, but writing about the house is already helping her loosen its hold. Her dream is not simply to escape poverty or shame. She wants to become someone free enough to choose her own life and strong enough to remember where she came from. Mango Street is the place she wants to leave, but it is also the place that gives her the stories she will carry, and someday, the reason to return.